our stubborn selves will cause it all. I hear the engine start to stop. Oh, but at least we'll all feel right. At least we'll go out standing tall.
Hey, welcome to Frostflower. I'm your host, TJ Freeze. Today we're going to talk about licensing. So, first let's talk about the timeline for legalization. The bill was signed into law on May 30th of 2023. The first parts of the bill went into effect on July 1st, but those didn't really affect a whole lot, just kind of some tax kind of stuff. August 1st, that's the first big one for Minnesota residents, becomes officially legal to possess and grow cannabis in the state for recreational purposes. Still legal to sell it, but we'll go through the details of that in a different video. Sometime in 2024, once the state gets their, stuff together with the Office of Cannabis Management, they'll be setting more direct timelines, getting out applications, doing research studies for the social equity piece of the licensure. So that's all going to be happening over the course of the next year, starting probably in earnest once they finally hire a director for the Office of Cannabis Management, which should be sometime, I think, in the end of August. I believe they posted it sometime in the beginning of July, end of June, beginning of July. Has to be posted for 30 days before they even start interviewing people. Once they hire somebody, then things will start rolling. So we'll definitely keep you updated on what goes on with that. Then the expectation is going to be that in early 2025 is when licenses are going to be out and we start seeing the first cannabis dispensaries open. So the exception for that being reservations can allow adult use sales earlier than that, and in fact starting August 1st. So there will be dispensaries open right away. But the licensing for general residents of Minnesota is not going to start until early 2025. So the different types of recreational cannabis licenses that will be available to consumers, we've got the cannabis micro business and meso business licenses, the cannabis cultivator license, the cannabis manufacturer, cannabis retailer, cannabis wholesaler, cannabis transporter, cannabis testing facility, cannabis event organizer, and cannabis delivery service. So there's actually going to be a couple other ones because the Office of Cannabis Management is going to be taking over medical cannabis licensing and low potency hemp licensing. So those ones will be handled by them, but we're not going to talk about those in the video because those actually have been legal for a while. So first off, the cannabis micro business. These are kind of the most confusing ones, the cannabis micro business and cannabis meso business licenses. They're kind of designed for smaller operations. They're both going to be encourage the business license holder to do multiple things, whereas some of the other license tiers are just going to be for cultivating, transporting, manufacturing cannabis products out of cannabis flower, etc. These ones are kind of your craft brewery kind of comparison of a license. So let's get into each of them individually, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the differences between the two licenses. So cannabis micro business. The cost for the application is going to be $500. That's a non-refundable application fee. If you don't get your license, sorry, bud. So the initial license fee, though, is free for your first year. Then the renewal license every year after that is $2,000. So it seems like they're kind of making the initial license fees a lot lower than the renewal license fees. And I think this is to help folks who don't have a ton of capital to be able to access the licensing. So we'll see. But these are the things that the micro businesses and meso businesses will be allowed to do. So I'm not going to read through this whole list. You can if you want to. But it essentially goes through all the different things that they'll be allowed to do, some of the things that they won't be able to do. But we'll get into that a little bit more as we get into the comparison aspect of it. The meso business application fee is going to be $5,000. This is going to be the bigger one of the two. The initial license fee is going to be $5,000 as well, and it's going to be $10,000 for the renewal of the license fee. So both of these micro business and meso businesses are going to kind of be able to do a little bit of everything, as you can see from the list. You can be able to grow, you'll be able to sell, you'll be able to package, you're going to be able to make concentrates and things like that. You're going to be able to like do on-site, like brew pub style events and, gatherings. But they're going to be endorsements involved. So this is kind of how it is in a lot of states. You get your license and then you apply for certain endorsements. And that's what kind of you're allowed to do with your micro business or meso business. So list of the some of the available endorsements: the cultivation endorsement, which I assume just about everybody's going to do. I'm sure there will be some folks who just deal with making edibles or things like that. But even in those circumstances, most people are gonna applying for these licenses are going to at least grow some of their own crops. Extraction and concentration endorsement. So that's going to be for people who are going to make concentrates. So that's going to be a lot more stringent as far as rules for safety go, just because those extraction businesses, I guess, can be a little bit more dangerous. So depending upon the type of extraction that you're doing, you may need to show a little bit more in terms of safety protocols for your business, things like that. Production of consumer products endorsement. So I think this is going to be fairly related to the extraction and that kind of thing. But consumer products, I'm not sure if this is going to include edibles. The retail operations endorsement. So this is the being able to sell to the public piece of the whole thing. Generally, retailers, will be specifically geared toward retail. Like most of the dispensaries you're going to see are going to be getting licensed, I believe. I don't really know. We'll see. But are going to be getting a license through the retail endorsement. But this will allow those small growers, micro business, meso business growers to open small shops so they can sell their product directly to consumers. On-site consumption endorsement is available for the micro business. So where I see this going is something like, how wine tastings, things like that. You've got people that come to the vineyard and they can sample some of the products and learn about how it's grown, things like that. This on-site consumption endorsement is going to be really great for micro businesses who want to go with kind of that weed winery kind of model. And then there's a medical endorsement available for meso businesses. So micro businesses don't have that option, but the meso businesses do. So let's move on to looking a little bit at the differences between the micro business and meso business licenses. Cultivation limits is going to be a big one. Micro businesses can have up to a 5,000 square foot canopy for their flowers for an indoor facility. Outdoor facility will be able to have up to a half an acre. Meso businesses will be able to do up to 15,000 square feet. So 3 times as much indoor grow space, and outdoor they can do up to an acre, so double the grow space for a meso business. Retail limits: micro businesses can only have one retail location. With that on-site consumption endorsement, I feel like it's going to be a lot of those kind of brew pub feel kind of places where it's like you can go there, you can sample the products, and then purchase right on site where it's grown. The meso businesses can operate up to 3 retail locations, which is going to be pretty great. Medical cannabis endorsement is going to be available for them. So other licenses that are available, in conjunction with the micro business license, is a cannabis event organizer. So I foresee a lot of this happening where these kind of small farms are going to have events out at their they'll have a band come play, stuff like that. I've looked a little bit into the minutia of those events, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. But you should be able to serve food, non-infused food at these events and one-off kind of businesses like this. So for the meso business, they'll also be able to do the cannabis event organizer license and the medical cannabis retailer license. So those are the few of the differences between micro and meso businesses. 5,000 square feet of canopy / a half an acre is quite a lot. So I honestly don't foresee a ton of people needing the bigger license or the bigger specified licenses, unless you're trying to be like like a big time company. So most of the smaller licenses that are going to be given out probably will be these micro business or even the meso business licenses. So next up, we're going to be looking at more of the specific big-time licenses. Cannabis cultivator are going to be the first one we're going to talk about. Limits for the cannabis cultivator, or application fees rather, is going to be $10,000 just for the application fee. Again, I believe all these are non-refundable, so hopefully you've got your stuff together if you're going for a license, especially these bigger ones. The initial license fee is going to be $20,000, and the renewal license fee is going to be $30,000. A little bit more capital investment, I guess, to start out. Cultivation limits for the cultivator license is going to be 30,000 square feet of canopy. So twice as much canopy for an indoor operation as the meso business, and outdoor 2 acres of growth. So they can do up to twice as much outdoor room as the meso businesses as well. So the other licenses that are compatible with this license are the manufacturer license. So we'll probably see a lot of people with these cultivator licenses that are also going to manufacture their own cannabis products. Medical cannabis cultivator license, medical cannabis producer license, license to grow industrial hemp, and cannabis event organizer license. So there's going to be, at the end, there's a really good graphic that I found that is going to show all the different compatibilities of the different license tiers. So I'll make sure to show that at some point. But it's a pretty great visual to be able to understand how they're all connected. Next license tier is going to be the cannabis manufacturer. So the cost for the application fee is $10,000, initial license fee of $10,000, and renewal license fee of $20,000. So this is going to be specifically for businesses who won't grow cannabis but want to process it. They're making concentrates, waxes, pens, things like that. So these businesses can, a lot of people with these licenses will also be growers, but you can just get this license if you want to buy grown product or, trim, whatever, you're using to make your concentrates, and then manufacture it into other goods. Next license tier is the cannabis retailer. So these ones are the ones that tend to be the most coveted, ones that are most customer facing. So you're going to be dealing with these businesses because these are the people that are going to be owning the dispensaries when they open. The application for this is going to be $2,500. Initial license fee $2,500, and then renewal license fee is going to be $5,000. You're going to be allowed up to 5 retail locations. So remember, the micro business, you can only have 1. Meso, you can have 3. This one, you can have 5 retail locations. Licensee may also obtain a permit for cannabis delivery. So you're going to have dispensaries that do their own delivery service, which makes sense. They also could do medical retail or event organizer. So it kind of seems like event organizer is going to be a license tier that's available for just about anybody. It's not as permanent, I guess, is the thing I'm looking to say. It's not as permanent a license as the other ones, and there's not as much overhead, not as much planning that goes into it. Long-term planning. There's a lot of short-term planning for event organizers, and we're going to see a lot of these, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. The other cool thing about the retail dispensary, a city or a county has the option of operating their own dispensary. If your county or your city or whatever wants to have a little bit more oversight over the process and also wants to, make more of the money, take a look at this option for a municipal dispensary, and then your town's going to benefit all the more. So, and I have a feeling that these dispensaries are going to get priority for licensing. It's going to be really hard to tell a town who has a good application that they can't do this. So if you're involved with your local community, and you're trying to find a way to get the people that don't support this to start supporting it and find a benefit for them and for your community, maybe go to a city council meeting and, maybe talk about this option. And they might be totally against it, but, worth a try. The next license tier we're going to talk about is a cannabis wholesaler. So these are kind of the middlemen of the situation. So the application fee for them is going to be $5,000, initial license fee $5,000, renewal license fee $10,000. So these are the people that are going to buy. I picture the people on the floor of Wall Street, like buying and selling stocks. It's kind of like that. They're going to be buying from growers, micro businesses, meso businesses, cultivators, and then reselling to dispensaries, retailers, things like that. So they may import certain cannabis products. This is another thing that I didn't find a whole lot of information about, but I believe it's going to be they're going to be able to import certain finished products from other states. So that's what we mean by importing. I don't think they're bringing it in from like Belgium or Amsterdam or something like that. But this is something that we'll look a lot more into. But I think it also will include like seedlings, things like that. So we'll see. But they also may have a transporter license, which I think a lot of them will, because a lot of wholesalers will probably just be picking up and delivering their products. Delivery service they can do, and event organizer again. Next tier is going to be the cannabis transporter. So the application fee for this one's $250, initial license fee $500, and the renewal is $1,000. So it's a little bit less expensive license tier. These people are going to transport the cannabis products around. These are the main movers of the product from the grow operation to retail, probably to some wholesalers. So big part of this is high safety, just because the transporters are going to be a target in theory of theft and possibly robbery. So high security protocols, like all the transport businesses, their vehicles need to be unmarked. They have to have intricate plans of when they're gonna, pick up and deliver the products, so people can't kind of figure out what their routines are and take advantage of that and steal their product. So they also may hold a wholesaler delivery service or event organizer license. So I foresee a lot of the wholesalers being transporters as well, a lot of the delivery services being transporters as well. But I personally really like that there's this much flexibility in the licensing tiers and the co-licensing, just because a lot of these things work so well together. Wholesaler and transporter being the perfect example of that. Next license tier we're talking about is the testing facility. So this is going to be a really important one. Probably not a lot of people watching this video care about this or are thinking about trying to start a testing facility, because that involves a ton of science and stuff. But this tends to be one of the biggest bottlenecks in new legal states. So I know in California, Nevada, Oregon, a lot of the states, the biggest problem that the new growers have is the lines at the testing facilities. So with the new protocols, all of the products that are going to be sold recreationally are going to have to be tested through one of these licensed testing facilities. So if you have one testing facility for every 1,000 cannabis businesses, that one testing facility is not going to be able to go through all of those samples in time to make the process easy and expedient, I guess. So this is one I'm really hoping the state puts a lot of emphasis on creating a good testing policy and a good infrastructure around it, because this is one of those things that could just derail and put a lot of bumps in the road toward adult use, but we'll find out. These must follow really strict guidelines. And the other part about this, as a testing facility, you're not allowed to have any other licensing. You're not allowed to have any connection with any other cannabis businesses, because the idea is that the testing facility needs to be completely objective. and not on, not looking to support any particular cannabis business. So this is going to be a really tough one. I encourage you, if you have science people that who may want to start a business, even if they're not cannabis people, this is a really good opportunity because like I said, there just tends to be a bottleneck here. So if you're a licensed testing facility, I have no doubt that you're going to have plenty of business in terms of the samples from the different growers around the state. So the next tier I want to talk about is the cannabis event organizer. We've talked about it a little bit through the other licensing tiers, because with the exception of the testing facility, every other licensing tier is eligible to do a cannabis event organizer license. So the license fees are on a per event basis. So if you're doing, the events can last up to 4 days. So I'm sure, probably starting as soon as this fall, you're going to see cannabis events, pop up. You must receive local approval for these. So all these places, all these localities that are implementing the I can't even think of the word, whatever you can't do it until 2025 thing. They must approve it. So if you're in one of those localities, you probably won't be able to do an event until 2025. There's a lot of places that you will be able to do them. So I'm sure we're going to start seeing these soon. The events can last up to 4 days. I foresee a lot of music festival kind of situations going with these. There must be records of all the cannabis vendors that are present. And then the OCM can also limit the number of event licenses that are given to any particular person. So fees here, application fee is $750, and the initial license fee is $750. So this probably won't be something that you can just, like if you want to, like smoke weed at the park one day, you can't just go get one of these event organizer, licenses and just like use it as a get out of jail free kind of thing. It's probably not going to be used very often. Probably for longer events, but I don't know. We'll see. This could be really interesting. I'm sure there's different ways that the different businesses will choose to use these and create different events, but it should be really fun. Cannabis delivery service is going to be the next one. Application fee $250, $500 for initial license fee, renewal license fee of $1,000. This is going to be your cannabis delivery service. A lot of them are going to be co-run with dispensaries. Next license tier is going to be low potent hemp licenses, edible manufacturers, edible retailers. So I hate these licenses. So this whole 0.03% thing is just the most ridiculous thing in the history of the world. The whole edible license thing law that came in 2021 or whatever was essentially a big trick to legalize edibles. Now that we can use real cannabis flower, like real recreational and medical cannabis flower to make edibles, it's still reasonable to have limits on like how many milligrams of THC in a serving of edibles can have, but it's ridiculous to be forced to make your edibles out of low potency hemp. It's just not a very efficient process, and it makes more sense to make the edibles and things out of cannabis that has a higher THC percentage, because they don't have to go through as much of it. But so I'm not even going to talk about these medical licenses again. Office of Cannabis Management is going to take over all this licensure. The cool thing about the medical licenses is there are no fees. It's the license fees and everything are zero, I believe, for all of them. I don't know. It seems like they're keeping the medical cannabis market unique and I don't know, better for those who need it for medical purposes. So question is, which license is right for you? Things that you need to consider: time commitment. Is this going to be your career? Is this going to be something you're doing for fun? Consider these things. Money. Do you have are you independently wealthy and can afford this? Do you have backing? Are you going to try to get a bank loan? Something else to consider: what's your knowledge? If you've never grown cannabis before, maybe jumping right into a cultivator license isn't the right decision. But, and maybe you're great at logistics. So you're like, oh, I can do this transporter thing, no problem. Maybe that's your thing. So and what are you going to enjoy? Those are the important things for you. Risk, can you handle the risk of large scale projects? Are you going to try to do something a little bit more low key to start out? These are all things that you need to consider. I'd recommend talking to a consultant, like watching a lot of our videos because we're going to have some relevant information. Probably talk to a lawyer. We're going to be trying to get in touch with some of these people to get a little bit more, this detailed knowledge, more of this advice for you, the consumer. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for joining us here on Frost Flower. We'll be back again soon. Make sure you subscribe and like and all that stuff. But most importantly, go down in the comments. Tell us what you want to see, what you want to hear about, because this channel's for you. Thanks again for watching. I'm TJ Freeze with Frost Flower. Have a glorious day.